if you guys could all mute yourself, except David, of course, so that we don't get any feedback. I want to welcome everybody to the next seminar in the Quick Start seminar series, navigation themed, that is. Today, I hope you're all doing well and had a chance to go outside. It was a gorgeous day today. I want to give a shout out to a few people that helped me organize this. And I forgot to do that last week, and that is Robbie Monsma, Maddie Miller from the office, and also Cindy Lair, who helped organize this and push this along so that it's finally happening right now. I want to let you know that next week will be a talk about CalTopo, same time, same day, Monday at 7 o'clock. You can sign up online. It's a webinar again. I know you're all going to be experts by now, so you know how this works. For the talk today, just like the last time, just use the chat box to ask questions. I think what Dave is going to do, he's going to stop at certain points during his talk, so you have a chance to ask a question right there rather than to wait all the way to the end. But if there's any leftover questions or stuff that he didn't get to, we can pick that up at the end of the talk, and he can answer it if he chooses to. And then as like last time, I'd like to send out a quick 4 question survey just to make sure this is what you wanted to see, this was helpful, and ask for any feedback in terms of what else you want to see. The next 2 are CalTopo and Gaia. So those 2 apps were highly requested by you folks. So hopefully that'll going to be helpful for you. With that, I think you're already seeing Dave's screen, his slide there, choosing a GPS. I'll hand it over to Dave, and I want to thank him very, very much for doing this. For those folks who have actually had a chance to look at his GPS document that I have linked to in the email, you saw that he spent a lot of time researching this. There's a lot of information in that document, and you probably won't have time to go through everything today, but this is a great reference that you guys can go back to. We're also recording this right now, so this will be hopefully soon on the CMC website for anybody to look at again if they want to look at something again that they have missed. With that, Dave, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. Yeah, the topic is choosing a GPS. This is a very large topic area, and I don't really know the skill level or the knowledge level of everybody that's here today. Maybe in the future, if we do something like this, we can separate it into beginner and advanced. But for better or worse, I'm going to start with some of the basics here, which some of you probably already know quite well. But I'm going to assume that I'm going to talk to some people that don't know a lot about GPS. So for the topics for today, I'm going to talk about different reasons for using a GPS device. Then I'll talk briefly about how GPS works. And then I hope the biggest part of this talk will be some different GPS scenarios, what you want to be able to do, and what the proper solution might be for what you want to do. And as Mike said, the format, I will try to pause at intervals. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat window to see if anybody's typed in any questions. And the seminar is pretty much based on that document, choosing GPS. In case you haven't seen that document, there it is. Similar to today's talk, it talks about some of the most popular choices of GPS units, talks about how GPS works and how accurate it is, talks about offline versus online and how GPS data is the different kinds of GPS data, tracks, routes, and waypoints, and then talks a little bit about the CMC track file manager system. And I think there's also going to be a seminar on that coming up. I don't know if it's scheduled yet. Okay. Oops. So why use GPS? Generally, you want to expand your capabilities for finding your way around in the woods. And here's some of the scenarios I thought I would try to talk about today. Pretty much starting from simpler ones, getting to more complex ones. So at the most basic level, maybe you're new to GPS, but you just want to start keeping track of your hikes for fitness reasons. You might have some exercise goals, and you might already use a step counter. But with a GPS, you can keep track of your hikes, how far you have gone, and how much elevation you have gained. At the next level, you might want to start finding some interesting hikes that you can go on. Where are there databases of hikes, and how do you get them into your GPS so you can follow that out on the trail? Some of the GPS apps that we'll be talking about do include databases of interesting trails. And then as you progress along in your learning curve, you might want to start planning your own hikes so you can be your own leader. And for this, you need a GPS solution that give you the proper information for planning your route, and you need a GPS device that you can rely on. And then moving up from there, you might want to start going off route, off trail. You might want to do some bushwhacking to a 13er or a remote fishing lake. And sometimes during difficult weather conditions and in all seasons. So then you're going to need a device that is rugged and reliable, and you also might want to be able to make emergency calls to the outside world. And then finally, there's another niche for GPS use, and that's the multi-day hikes. If you want to do long distance hiking, there's some different things you need to consider when you're trying to choose what to bring with you on a long hike. So I'll get back to these after I talk about how GPS works, and we can have maybe more of a discussion on what the best solution might be for these scenarios. But always, I got to start out with the scenario. Always carry a map. You can print a page-size map on a piece of paper and store it in a Ziploc bag. It's cheap, reliable, doesn't weigh anything. And then if your fancy GPS breaks, you always have a paper map to fall back on. Okay, I'm going to start with a little pop quiz here. And that is, what is the most listened to radio station in the world? I don't know if anybody has any ideas on that. It's kind of related to our theme tonight. BBC, yeah, that's a good one. But the answer I'm looking for is the L1 band on GPS satellites with billions of users. And that is, there's about 100 GPS satellites up there, and they're all radio stations broadcasting primarily on the L1 frequency band. And the billions of users, well, those are the smartphones all around the world. There are vehicle navigation systems in cars and trucks, emergency vehicles, trains, airplanes, boats. In addition to all that, there's many scientists using GPS to track things like animal movements. And the GPS is even used by the stock market. The clocks on GPS satellites are used to time buy and sell transactions to see who gets to buy or sell first. So in case you want to listen to this L1 station, what are those satellite radio stations broadcasting? It's not real exciting. It's a constant stream of data about the satellite's precise location and the time. And that's not just any time, but that's time accurate to the nanosecond, which is 1/1000th of a second. And then down here on Earth, your GPS device has a GPS radio receiver that is listening to the satellite broadcasts. It receives a satellite location and time combination. Your smartphone knows what time it received the message. And so it compares the time it was sent with the time it was received, and it knows how many nanoseconds it took for the signal to get down to you. And these satellites are 12,000 miles away, which is also mind-boggling. And radio waves travel at the speed of light, so it takes about 6/100ths of a second for the signal to get to you. But the time difference in nanoseconds tells your smartphone exactly how far away the satellite is from your present location. I wanted to take a look at those satellites for a second here. Let's see if I can get a screen up here. That's my smartphone there. And on my smartphone, I have a bunch of apps, but I also have one called GPS Test, and I'm going to launch that one. Oops. There we go. So this is showing me the status of all the satellites that the GPS radio on my smartphone is currently receiving. Notice there's a column called GNSS. That stands for Global Navigation Satellite System. And that's actually the correct name for what we're doing here, not GPS. GPS is the United States version of GNSS. They were the first satellites up there, and the US military decided to call the system GPS. Let me move over to the view of the sky here on this app. So this is showing you all the satellites in my view that I might be able to pick up. The ones, let's see, the ones that are with dark symbols with a black outline, they're the satellites that are actually being used right now for my phone to get a fix. And you can see my phone is using circles, triangles, and squares, which if I go down here a bit, the circles are the US GPS system, the squares are the Russian GLONASS system, and the triangles are the European Galileo system. My phone can get Chinese Baidu satellites, but right now I guess I'm not getting any of those. There's also an accuracy test here. And what this is doing is the little blue dot here shows the current GPS fix that is coming down from the satellites. The red pin is the location of where I am in my house. And so the difference between where I am in my house and the blue dot is the error, which currently is at about 7 meters, which is not bad since I'm in a building. But it's taking, so far it's taking 127 fixes, and the longer it does this, the error rate will slowly go down. Of course, this is not a perfect measure of the GPS accuracy because the satellite imagery itself has errors in it. And those errors vary around the world depending upon where you're at. If you really want to do a rigorous test of accuracy, you would go to a benchmark. Those are those metal plates you see at the top of mountains sometimes. You would get the number on that benchmark, look it up online and find the exact latitude and longitude of that benchmark, and then run this accuracy test there. And that would give you a true accuracy of how well your GPS is doing. All right, let me put this down. Let's see. Weather related, somebody says, yeah, the accuracy of GPS is weather related. Rain, I've read, or wet trees can hinder the signal a little bit. That app, by the way, is only available on Android. Somebody's saying there's one called Google Status, which does a similar thing. Okay, so let's take a look at the most popular GPS devices and the criteria you can use to select one. And for that, I'm going to use a spreadsheet that is linked to that document that you all read, right? And these are probably about the 7 or 8 most common devices that people are using these days. And the devices are in the columns, and different criteria for how you might want to pick one are in the rows. So if you had a single criterion for choosing a device, it would be simple. Like if cost was your only concern, there's the cost on the top row, and they range from free if you have a cell phone. I'm not going to count the cost of your cell phone in there because we all already have cell phones. So if you have a cell phone, then it only costs you almost nothing to $30 a year to buy an app to use on that cell phone. Among the actual GPS devices, though, The Garmin eTrex is about the least expensive. It's about $125. These prices are always going up and down quickly, however, and so if you do some shopping around the internet, you may find a better price. If you do that, though, be careful. There's some dubious sellers out there. I think they come from various parts of the world, and if you see a price that's too good to believe, it is too good to be true. So I would stick with major resellers if you're going to shop around. So let's say weight is your consideration. You can look at the weight, and they range from 3.5 ounces for an InReach Mini. Smartphones are around 6 ounces, and the heaviest one is the old GPS map series up at around 9 ounces. Or screen size might be of interest to you. If you're going to be looking at a map, screen size can be very important, and the screen sizes range from the tiny one on an InReach Mini up to your smartphone screen, which is a pretty decent size. But when you're trying to figure out what kind of a GPS to use, you probably won't be looking at a single criterion. So let's go back to our GPS scenarios where you're going to have multiple criterion, and then we'll go back to these sheets with those in mind. So let me minimize this for a second. Oh, I forgot to mention the last part of how a GPS works is once your phone knows the locations of satellites, it needs 3 or 4 of them to compare. And by using intersecting circles of those distances, where the 3 circles come together, that's your location. And that process using distances is called trilateration, which is similar to triangulation, which uses angles. So I'm going to start with the first scenario here, the most basic one, which is you're new to GPS and you just want to start tracking your hikes. You want to see what your mileage is and what your elevation gain is and how they're stacking up. So your criterion might be something inexpensive and easy to use. Of course, we need to be able to use offline maps, but I'm not going to even mention that because that's true of all these scenarios. Because we are hiking in the woods out of range of Wi-Fi and cell towers, we always need a solution that will work offline. So we want to look for inexpensive and easy to use devices. So let's go back to the comparison table. So as I said, you already own a smartphone. So that's going to be your cheapest alternative for getting started. So the question is then, you got to have an app on that smartphone, and which app do you want to use? So let's look at some apps. I'm going to put this away for a second. And here is a spreadsheet about different apps you can get on your smartphone. There's about 100 of these, so I picked about 10 of the most common ones. So what do we say? We want something that's inexpensive and easy to use. So let's see, down here, there's a whole bunch of criterion you can look at to compare these apps. And somewhere down here, I have ease of use. There we go. So among these apps, let's see, Gaia is pretty easy to use. All Trails is easy to use. Backcountry Navigator is not so easy. The manual's 210 pages long. Avenza is not bad. CalTopo, which is a website and an app, has a moderately long learning curve, but there's going to be a seminar on that. And then there's an app called ViewRanger, which is also pretty easy to use. How about costs? I'm going to look at the free versions down here. So Gaia is a good one, and it's easy to use, but you cannot download offline maps without paying the ghastly fee of $17 a year, which I don't think any of these app phone fees are going to hold anybody back because they're all pretty inexpensive. However, there are some free ones. Let's see. View Ranger over there, about the 5th one over. That one, you can use that. It's easy to use, and they give you three types of base maps for free, so you wouldn't have to pay anything for that. What else? I don't know if anybody else has some favorite picks among these. But let's say, based on just those two criterion alone, we like Gaia GPS and we like View Ranger. So let me put this away for a second. So there's our solution. We'll use a smartphone with a GPS app that tracks your hikes. And View Ranger or Gaia GPS are good choices. And that's what they look like. The one on the left is Gaia. One reason, however, you might want to go with View Ranger is for about $5, they add on a thing called Skyview, which is you point your phone at something and it looks through the camera and it labels everything in view, all the peaks, sometimes towns or lakes, which is a pretty cool feature. And it appears to work pretty good, even offline, although I haven't tested it to any large degree. One other nice thing about View Ranger is it will give you a total summary of all the hikes, all the tracks you've uploaded, the total miles for all your tracks, the total elevation gain for all your hikes, and I think also things like average speed on all your hikes. I don't think Gaia does that. If there's any Gaia experts out there, maybe you can tell me if I'm right on that. But with Gaia, I believe you have to look at each hike individually. So if you want augmented reality and lifetime summaries, I guess you would go with View Ranger. Otherwise, you might want to go with Gaia because it is actually the most popular app used by people. So you'll have a lot of people you can talk to about how to use it and get a lot of helpful advice. Let's see, somebody says Venza is free for 3 maps. That's true. You can only have 3 maps on your Venza smartphone database at once. To my knowledge, though, I couldn't find any documentation for this. The size of those maps, there's no size limit, so you can have 3 large maps on a Venza at one time. I'm going to test that one of these days. So I don't think that's too severe of a shortcoming for Venza. How do apps work when out of the service area? I guess you mean when they're offline? Well, of course, when you're offline, you can't get a Wi-Fi signal and you cannot get a cell phone signal. So usually the online maps appear on your phone via Wi-Fi or cell phone towers. So that's not going to work. So that's the big online offline problem. So what you have to do before every hike for all of these is download maps onto your smartphone. And as I said, some of these apps allow you to download the maps for free, and other ones you have to pay a fee for that capability. Let's see, the GPS signal, of course, is available everywhere because that's coming from satellites. Why do phone apps like Gaia and CalTopo show different mileage and elevation gain when compared with a Garmin GPS device? Yeah, that's a puzzler. I'm sure, you get back at the end of a hike and everybody gets their GPSs out and everybody has different answers. And part of that is just because getting location data and elevation data from the satellites has noise. If you stand at a single point and look at the thing I showed you, the accuracy thing earlier, you're getting a cloud of points from your GPS device. And so there's just some built-in error due to that. And some apps, some phones do better than others. I really wasn't going to get into accuracy too much, but maybe if we have time a little bit later, we can talk about why some phones might be better than other phones. It depends upon the phone's capabilities. Okay, Avenza uses USGS quads. I'm going to talk about Avenza a little bit more because actually it's an app I use a lot. And when I use Avenza, I get my maps from CalTopo for free. And I'll talk a little bit about those. So you can see the downloaded map, but not necessarily where you are compared to the waypoints. Well, no, if you're out of range of cell towers and Wi-Fi and you did not download a map, you will not see a map on your phone anymore. Or rather, you'll see a very coarse map, because most of the apps, they'll download a very coarse map for the whole state of Colorado as soon as you install the app. But if you try to zoom in on that, all of a sudden it'll just be blank because you didn't download the map, the little map squares at a more accurate scale. Okay. Robbie says you don't need Wi-Fi with phone apps. That's true. I mean, it uses cell phone towers also to get maps. Maybe, I'm not sure if that's what Robbie is speaking to specifically. And she talks about calibrating your device. I'm not sure about that. Maybe Robbie can add some more detail on calibrating your device. I know you can calibrate if you have a barometric altimeter on your device, you can calibrate that.
I don't know if I can say, I don't know why, but I remember Dave Dameth does every trip at the trailhead, but you do it, at least for Gaia, or my iPhone, you do it through the Gaia compass.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And it's real easy to do. And the more, usually when you get something that doesn't match what you have, it's because, and I can tell you from experience, some people never calibrate, some people always calibrate, and I'm kind of in the middle.
Okay. Well, I might be wrong, but I think you're calibrating the compass there. I don't think you can actually calibrate the GPS satellite signals. You can calibrate a compass and you can calibrate a barometric altimeter. And that's something you might want to do periodically.
It's probably that, because I asked that question to Garmin one time and that's what they told me.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Wow.
Let's see. What else we got here? Trying to keep up with these questions. Okay. Yeah, you can actually, if you just want to record a track, let's see, this is from, where did I see this? This is from Dean. It's a good point. You can have one of these apps out here and you forgot to download the maps, so maybe all you see is an empty screen. You can still record a track. You just won't have a background to view it against, and you'll have a valid GPS track because you're still connected to the GPS satellites. And you can download that track when you get home and look at it on a map. But it's pretty useless for navigation if you just see your GPS track against the black background or whatever. But you can do it, yep. Okay, Bob says only 2 of the listed GPS units use replaceable batteries. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Right now, the first scenario is just a pretty lightweight trip, probably just a few hours, a short club trip. So we weren't worried about batteries yet, but we'll get to that. Let's see. Somebody else, Bob says, I have an Avenza also, have several maps on it and can access them anytime. Yes, it is limited to 3 maps. What I do is these maps that you download to Avenza are GeoPDFs. I just keep them always in my Google storage area online. When I'm done with a map on Avenza, I just delete it off of Avenza so I can load another one. And then if I need the old one back, I just go back online and reload the map. So, but you can only have 3 at once. Yep. Okay. Oh, what's this name? Barbadine, am I saying that right? With a Garmin device, you have to buy international maps. True. In general, Garmin has a sad history of map buying. They would make you buy maps for a pretty hefty price, 50, 75 bucks. Yeah, once you bought them, they only updated them about every 5 years. And if you wanted the new ones, you had to pay again. So most people have a pretty poor impression of Garmin maps, and I personally would never buy Garmin maps because you can get better maps for free. And I'll try to talk about that later. With many of the apps that were listed in that spreadsheet, several maps might be free, but the more money you pay, the more maps you get. And I think Robbie just mentioned that Gaia has something like 200 maps now available, 220 plus. So that's quite a selection. Okay. All right, I'm going to pause on the questions now because I have 4 more scenarios I want to go through, and we'll see if people have some opinions on those also. Okay, scenario 2 was, okay, you know how to track a basic hike, and but now you want to do some hiking maybe on your own, but you want to stick to popular trails, so you want to be able to find a trail. What's a nice hike in your area? If you've traveled out of state and you're visiting Tucson, Arizona, you want to know where there's some nice trails around there you might hike. Are there apps that'll help you with that? So the criteria here is you want an app that has a good hike database. Once you find a hike you like, you may want to download that hike as a GPS file and load it into your favorite app that you actually navigate with. And in our case, we said previously we prefer Gaia or ViewRanger. So, so what are the choices for that? Let's go back, let's see, to the app spreadsheet here. There it is. Okay. So we're concerned about online maps for one thing. So let's look for online maps here. They're up here somewhere. There they are. Offline maps, excuse me. We want offline maps. So just looking at whether offline maps are available, you can get them from Gaia, you have to pay $17. You can get them from All Trails, you have to pay a few bucks. Backcountry, you got to pay about $20. Avenza, you have to load your own maps. So they're free, but you have to learn how to make your own maps using Caltopo and load them. ViewRanger has 3 maps you can download for free, 3 versions of maps. And Cotrex has 1 version of a map plus satellite imagery if you want to try that one. What was the other criteria? The ability to load the GPS track for that hike into Gaia. Okay, well, first let's look at the database of hikes. There's a lot of places to get GPS tracks out there. I have, for a long time, have used All Trails. If you're familiar with that, they have a really nice website. You go there and you pan a map, an online map to anywhere, and it shows you a whole bunch of trails that are you can go on in that area. It's a large database and there's quite a bit of details about those maps, but they're all user uploaded maps. So you have to trust that the people uploaded those maps were reliable. Are they suggesting you go on a trail that actually goes through private property or not? You're never sure, but it's probably the most complete database of online maps that I've seen. Gaia also has user uploaded tracks, but they're not easy to search. You go to a page, you see a bunch of tracks, and you have to click on each one to get more details about it. We have a really wonderful website here in Colorado called Cotrex, which there was a seminar about that last week, and that's a curated database of official trails in Colorado. Those are all official trails. There's no social trails on there, but you can be sure, and there's a lot of hike data about each trail, who can go on it, if it allows bikes, hikers only, whatever, how difficult it is, the grade. It's a wonderful source of information about trails, but it's only for Colorado. So we've got a few choices here. I think Cotrex is definitely in the running, and I'm going to put All Trails in the running too as maybe my second choice. Let me do that. All Trails and Cotrex, I would say, meet our criteria the best here. So let's see if I have any more details. Okay, so based on that, our solution is going to be to find a hike with Cotrex or All Trails. Then we're going to want to take a GPX file for that and load it into Gaia or ViewRanger. By the way, that's what the Gaia looks like on your cell phone, and there's a lot of trails in this area. And that's what Cotrex looks like. We have an issue here though, and there's the details, the devil's in the details here. Cotrex, if you find a trail, an official trail you like on Cotrex, you cannot download a GPX file for that trail. So you would have to use Cotrex as your navigation app. Cotrex also has user uploaded tracks, and you can download those, but there's no easy way to search those. So that's kind of a little bit of a quandary for using trails from Cotrex on a different device. Whereas with all trails, you can download the GPX file and then load it back into Gaia or ViewRanger. So let me look at some comments here. I think might have missed some. There's quite a few here, and we're not probably going to have time to look at all of them. Let's see. Why buy a GPS when you can use an app on the phone? That's from Jennifer. We're going to get to that. We're moving up into more and more rigorous applications of GPS. So far, we're just going on easy day hikes. We're going on popular trails where there's lots of other people. So if our phone fails us, we are not going to be too worried. But that may not always be the case. How do you load maps onto a Garmin? Well, there's a couple of different answers for that. It depends upon if you bought maps from Garmin, which I don't recommend doing, or if you have an alternative source of maps. There are some videos and some training things on how to do that. And I can provide a link at some point. I think for some of these questions, after the seminar is over, I'll try to, if I can get your emails, like Carol, I can try and send you an email with more information on how you load maps onto a Garmin, but I don't have the time to really, it's a little bit of a detailed process. Can I load AllTrails maps into a Garmin? I do not believe so. What you can load are GPS tracks, which is the track file, but not the maps themselves. Let's see. How do you load a track onto Gaia? Well, it's there. If you, a Gaia expert might have to help me on this, but I think you may have to go to the online website and load it to the online website first and then download it to your phone. I'm not positive about that, but it's not too complicated of a process. Let's see. When you search for trails in AllTrails, it shows you which trails are curated. Oh, I didn't realize they made that distinction. That's good to know. Thank you for that. As I said, user uploaded trails are always a little bit iffy. So you do want to have some curated, you might want to rely on curated trails, which just means somebody looked at them and made sure they were legit. And that there's actually a place you can park without getting your car towed away. Okay, if you were in a hurry, not in a hurry, some subscription-based apps are available at Black Friday. Okay, yeah, if you want to get good prices, just go shopping on Google, and a lot of these devices, and actually a lot of the apps, the phone apps, also have special sales and special introductory offers periodically, and all. Gaia has one going on right now called Discover, I think. I think it's it's a 1 month free trial called Discover. Let's see. Let's see, Robbie, Gaia, you can draw at computer. It will automatically be accessible on your phone. You can draw routes, your own routes on the Gaia website and then download them onto your phone. Many of these apps, they have the cell phone app and they have a corresponding website, and you do work on both. You can use your big screen on your computer for searching, for constructing trails, and then once you've done that, you can download the stuff to your app on your phone. Which maps are easiest to use in conjunction with Garmin? Again, I think that's a detail that I don't have time to answer, but the short answer is And this is great. With certain Garmin devices, in particular the GPS map series and the eTrex series, you can load OpenStreetMap maps, which are good at down to about 1 to 10,000 scale for the whole country for free. They're great maps and they're all free. But there's a bit of a process to that, and I do have a video on how to do that if you want me to contact you on that later. Okay. Okay, here's a good one from Dennis. What's the advantage of using Gaia on an iPhone versus an Android? Gaia was first developed on an iPhone before they ported it to Android, and they've never quite caught up with Android. It's quite a bit better on an iPhone, and there are features available on an iPhone that are not available yet on Android. So definitely, I think iPhone users get a better product than Android users when you're using Gaia. Okay, what's next? Now we're down to scenario 3. And this is, you want to plan your own hikes. Maybe you want to go off trail, you want to make your own route, and you want a GPS device that you can rely on. So here, your criteria are, you want good hike planning tools, you want good maps, and you want a rugged, reliable GPS device. So let's go to the spreadsheet for devices. And let's see, rugged. All the devices shown here are Garmin devices. Garmin pretty much has the the market cornered. They make really solid devices for the most part. And all the Garmins are very rugged. I've had an eTrex 20 for 10 years and it's still going strong. Smartphones, and we can debate this till tomorrow, but are smartphones rugged and reliable? Well, they're making them waterproof these days. You can buy a rugged case to protect them, but they still have short battery lives, which that's related. It's not related to ruggedness. But if you drop the darn thing, you might break the screen. I don't know if anybody's broken a screen on a Garmin device. So if you want something rugged, you pretty much need to buy a Garmin device, I would say. Okay, we want, what were our other criteria here? Planning tools and good maps. We've already said Garmin's don't have great maps, but I've also mentioned you can load your own custom maps on there, and those are good maps. You know, if you trust your phone and you're not worried that it's going to break, you can use Avenza on your smartphone, and you can load custom maps from CalTopo on there. One other choice, which wasn't one of our primary criteria, but the word generally is that the GPS map, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm clicking in the wrong place. The GPS map 64 has a better antenna. It has a quad helix antenna. That's the thing that's sticking up off the top. So it can get a better signal than, say, the eTrex, because it doesn't have quite as good of an antenna. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we looked at some of our criteria, so let's go back to the slide here. We want a good planning tool, which I haven't talked about yet. But I'm going to say the solution here is to use CalTopo to make a custom map. There's a CMC class on how to use CalTopo, and there's some videos, and there's going to be a training session on CalTopo. It makes wonderful maps. It's a good planning tool. It's a wonderful planning tool also. You can use all kinds of ancillary data, like slope angle, some weather information even, land ownership to help you plan your hike. And then you can load those maps into an eTrex if you want to use a rugged device, or into Avenza if you want to use a smartphone. Okay. Let's see. So since I'm talking about one other note I'll mention about planning too, and that is All Trails, using the free version, has an excellent, probably the best route planning tool available. It works like Google Maps does. You know, Google Map, you tell it where you want to start and where you want to end up, and it just finds you the best route. All Trails does that using the trail system. And if you don't like the trail it suggested, you can move it around by dragging the line in the middle to a different trail system. It's quite amazing. So I'd recommend you you go take a look at that on All Trails. It's kind of buried under you have to make a new map to get access to the route building functionality there. Let's see what kind of questions we have here. What is the advantage of using Gaia? Okay, we mentioned that. It's Gaia is better on an iPhone. The spreadsheet, yeah, it's shared. If you go to the choosing a GPS document down at the end of the most common choices, where I'm talking about smartphones, there's a link to that spreadsheet. I will mention though that both of those spreadsheets, they're works in progress, and I would hope that different experts in the club eventually can build off of those and correct any discrepancies or errors in there, because there's so much detail that it's difficult to accurately fill out all those boxes. So yeah, feel free to use that, but be aware that you might find something that's a little cockeyed once in a while. Okay, from Bob, can you download Cotrex maps? No, you cannot. Oh wait, excuse me. You can, Cotrex is free. You can look at their maps online, and then when you pick a hike, yeah, you download their maps for free onto your phone and navigate using the Cotrex app. You can't move the maps to some other app though. You have to use them within Cotrex. Can you download Cotop? I don't believe so. I don't think you can load custom maps into Gaia, as far as I know. Since I'm talking about maps, let's look at a few maps. Here's the Mount Evans area from 3 different apps. The one on the left is CalTopo. The one in the middle is the standard map in Gaia, and the one on the right is the only map in Cotrex. And they're all nice looking maps. It depends upon what kind of detail you like. The Gaia map, if you don't like that one, as Robbie said, there's 200 more if you pay a subscription fee. So you might find one you like better than this. But I'm partial, of course, to CalTopo. It's a wonderful website, and CalTopo also has about 30 maps. They're all free, and you can use those. So I think as you do your searching for what app to use, you want to just look at all the available maps and maybe do some comparisons until you find the solution that works for you. One other thing I wanted to say about maps, screen size matters. Here's the same map from CalTopo. The one on the right, I loaded it into Avenza on my smartphone. The one on the left, I loaded it into my eTrex 30. It's the same map, but darn, it's pretty hard to see the detail on the eTrex 30. And that's one of the largest screen sizes among the Garmin devices. So there's the trade-off between ruggedness and screen size, and nobody has solved that yet. Garmin has made a lot of devices with bigger screens and touch screens, but they haven't been selling well. I think they've had issues. And smartphones are getting more and more rugged every day, so we'll see where this leads. Of course, if you have a paper map, that's the biggest screen of all, so always carry a paper map. Let's see. From Robbie, you don't really know how to download a map. If you download a track, it will show up on the maps available where you load it. Gaia.
Hi, easier. I was just, if I can butt in, what I was trying
Yeah.
to say is people kept asking, can I download the map from? And the question is, you don't need the map from, what you need is the track. So you download the track, if you do it on CalTopo, say, and then you load it up into your Garmin or you load it up into your smartphone, it'll show up on that device's maps. You don't need to ever download maps unless, well, like David was talking about, you're going into the wilderness and you want to download them now at home so you have access while you're on the trail. But don't think in terms of maps, think in terms of tracks that you're, or routes, whatever they're, well, we don't have to get into that, but that works much better. And I would say too, just want to add, I've used all of them, I like all of them, but the one on Gaia that's really good that you only get with the subscription is the Nat Geo map. And it looks very similar to the CalTopo map that you can get for free on CalTopo.
So there you go. It comes down to ease of use versus cost, I guess. And you know, if I'm out somewhere and spontaneously I want to go on a hike, I just load up Gaia because I don't have to do any work. It's kind of seamless. Although if I'm going to go offline, I do have to download, make sure I have the map and the track so I can use it offline. But Gaia is just, you can hardly beat it for how easy it is to use. And so that's why it's the most used app out there, I believe. Okay, let's see, where are we here? Okay, we have two more scenarios and about 6 minutes, so I'll go through these quick. Okay, now you're a confident hiker. You're ready to go off trail in all seasons. You're going to be bushwhacking in all kinds of weather. And you might actually, for the first time, want to be able to send satellite messages from wherever you are in case you have an emergency, if you're going to be delayed and you want to let people back home know that you're going to be late. So, so our criteria here are rugged and the ability to send satellite messages. So let's go to the spreadsheet for that. Okay, satellite messaging. We have two devices here that do that. The InReach Explorer Plus and the InReach Mini. So there's your two choices. Let's see. They're both rugged and they'll work in all weather. I don't know if you guys have tried to use your smartphone when it's really cold out, when it's raining, when it's really hot out, but it can be, that touch screen can be difficult. When my screen is wet, the screen doesn't kind of work right. If it's cold, the batteries sometimes kind of conk out. If you've ever left your smartphone on the dashboard of your car in hot weather, it can do some weird things to your phone. So Garmin's are kind of indestructible, I think. Has anybody ever destroyed a Garmin? I don't know. So for this scenario, let's see what our solution is going to be. InReach Explorer, that's pretty much the do everything device that's indestructible, and you can send satellite messages. And on the side there is an SOS button. If you're in trouble, you just push a button and you'll be in contact with first responders. Okay, last scenario, multi-day trips. For those of you that want to do a backpacking trip or maybe a long distance hike, for the first time now, we're worried more about weight and battery life. And if our hike is going to be on the Continental Divide Trail, there's a lot of wilderness there, so you might want to have a satellite messaging capability in case you get into trouble. So I'm going to go one last time back to the comparison table. We're looking at unit weight and satellite, oops, did that wrong. Let me try that again. Satellite messaging, weight, and battery life are the things we're worried about here. The Explorer, it says it'll last 100 hours. I'm not sure, that might be on hours. The Mini will last forever. I think 20 days if it's on. If it's off, it lasts for, I mean, a year. That thing does not use much battery power. As far as weight goes, the Mini is definitely the winner there. It's a third of the weight of the InReach Explorer. And if you want to do satellite messaging, I mean, you might consider a GPS map for this, but it does not have satellite messaging. So it looks like the InReach Mini is our most likely choice here. So if we go back to the criteria, this is a solution I've kind of figured out, and here's a photo of it. My smartphone weighs 6 ounces, the Mini weighs 3.5 ounces, and a small battery pack weighs 4 ounces and then you're always carrying a map and a trail description. So for less than £1, you have a pretty unbeatable combo. If you're hiking the Appalachian Trail where there's a road or a town every 5 miles and there's cell signals, then you might not even need the InReach Mini. So it depends upon what your backcountry hike is going to be like. Okay. Oh, well, that's pretty good timing. We're at 7:59. I'm not sure if I missed any other questions here. Let's see. This is, you know, there's a lot of complicated procedures here, and I'm sorry, this really wasn't the right forum for trying to get into detail. So once you pick a solution, then I suggest there's lots of resources out there, many club resources for learning how to use these things and how to download free maps, how to work with GPS files, what's the difference between a route and a track, and all those kind of details. So what else we got here? GPS satellites only send data to your phone. Yeah, these are the GPS ones that send out the time data and the location data, and that's how your phone knows where you are. Those are GPS satellites, or more properly GNSS satellites. There's no communication capabilities there. The InReach series uses the satellites called the Iridium satellites, which are private. It's a private company. Those are the ones that, you know, the old heavy satellite phones that people that climb Mount Everest use. That's the satellite system they use. And so you would be using Iridium satellites for doing your messaging. Yeah, so that's a good point. Video on using CalTopo. I do have a CalTopo video. I made it in the context of using an eTrex. If you look on the club page, the QSS page, where you saw the announcement for this seminar, there's some links to about 6 videos there. Those were all ones I made because I use the eTrex 20 and I really like that device. So the first 3 are about how to use an eTrex 20. Then there's one about how you can load free maps onto the eTrex, but that also holds true for the GPS map. And then there's one about that's how to use CalTopo to get maps to put on those devices also. And there's also a video there on how to use Avenza. All right, well, thank you all for listening in. I talked a little bit more than I want. Hopefully we can do one of these at some point where everybody is unmuted and we can have more of a discussion. But yeah, it's a large topic, and once we're all free to leave our homes, we can maybe have some sessions at a pub and get some real discussions going on this, because all of this is very subjective. So thanks a lot. Thanks for your attention, and have a good evening and happy trails.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I also want to thank everybody for being part of this. Don't forget, next week we have a CalTopo webinar, and we also have Dave's video online. We'll record next week CalTopo, just like we record this one, and this will be online eventually as well. With that, I'd say thanks, have a good night, and stay safe. Hopefully see you all next week.
Okay, Mike, I saved the chat, so if I missed any questions, I can try to get back to people if I can figure out what their email is.
Sounds good. I think when I get out, it asks me to save the video,
Okay.
but I'll have to see. It's either you or me, depending on who it thinks is the host.
Okay, yeah, let's see. Yeah, I won't know until I exit, I guess. We won't know
Exactly.
until we exit, yeah.
So thanks so much. This was really great.
Yeah, I
Just the
enjoyed
right
it.
amount. So this gets people started, and they have your reference videos and documents to, get a little bit deeper into it.
Mhm. Do you think, I don't know if the PowerPoint itself is that useful, because I made a lot of points that weren't really
I
in the
think so.
PowerPoint.
I enjoyed it because it gave me like a structure.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just speak about it. It's like, okay, you have different categories. Which one am I in?
Yeah.
And then just the key points in a bullet structure. That's really nice. I like it.
So should I email you how do I make the PowerPoint available then?
Yeah, you can email it to me, and I'll ask Maddie to put it online, if that's okay. We can put it online as a PDF.
All right, great.
Together with the video. So.
Okay, well, I got to go wet my whistle.
No, you have a good one. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for emceeing that. You do a great job.
Oh, you did all the work.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Bye.
See ya.